The Genesis Mini 2 and Mega Drive Mini 2 complete game list was just revealed the other day, and we did talk about that in a video going over everything that was included. There's some pleasant surprises, some interesting stuff here, but then also some omissions that are a little disappointing, you know? I kind of voiced a little bit of my disappointment. Like, I wasn't angry, I wasn't, blown up. It was just like, man, I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get a couple games that I was really hoping for on the North American version. It's just kind of unfortunate. But now I want to do this follow-up as I've read through all the comments, I've seen more information out there, and expanding on this actual game list, there's a lot of interesting facts and tidbits that I'm pretty sure not a lot of people really know about. So I wanted to kind of talk about that. But then also with all the comments I got, there was a lot of common thoughts out there, and I kind of wanted to go over some of that as well. Some people displeased, some people excited, some people ready to just cancel their pre-order, forget about it. And I just wanted to kind of go over some of that stuff a little bit, especially with the omissions that a lot of people had mentioned and I mentioned. We do have some information. It looks like I've been forwarded some messages, some, comments out there, just kind of shedding more light on why things are the way they are. But before we jump into all that, I want to take a quick look at this Ars Technica article, as it does go over some very interesting stuff. Some stuff that we've already talked about, but then some stuff that I find intriguing and I don't think everyone knows about. So there's some special features with a lot of these games. And then there's some question as well to like, hey, why is this game on here? Like, as an example, if you go to the bonus games, Space Harrier 2 is on here, but then also on the first Genesis Mini, Space Harrier 2 was on there as well, but it's listed as a bonus this time. Well, it's a little more than just the same game, so we'll talk about that as well. But okay, we're getting a couple unreleased games, that Devil and Pie, or maybe it's P. I think it was translated to P on the Japanese site. That was an unreleased game designed by Sonic 3 developer Takashi Iizuka, if I'm saying that correctly. If not, my apologies. Paddle style game. Looks something like Arkanoid, Twinkle Star Sprites. Hey, that's cool, right? And then we also get that world premiere of Star Mobile, a game that was completed and never released. Another puzzle type game. Yeah, there's a few here, but there's a good variety as well. And then we're also getting like a lot of these bonus games down here that we did kind of go over a little bit. Some arcade games that are being ported to Genesis level hardware for the first time. So Fantasy Zone, it's being ported by the same team that ported Darius for the first Genesis Mini with a new easy mode that wasn't in the arcades. So very cool. That was listed right there. And like I said in the other video, man, the US version of this site, none of the games let you look at the details. So you have to go to the Japanese list and they give you details on if they're new releases, but they don't really like explain too much. So yeah, like I don't like the way this US version's situated. You click on stuff, but it's just like the first one, the first Genesis Mini. You could just look at the game box art. That was pretty much it, right? So then the one that we were talking about, Space Harrier 2, it's actually Space Harrier 1 and 2. But these are new ports that use modern technology to provide much smoother sprite scaling that was not previously possible on the hardware. They state it's unclear if these new ROMs could run on standard hardware or if it's like special to this hardware. Because one thing you got to remember, between the first Genesis Mini and this new one, this is new hardware. It's more powerful. And from what I've read as well, like the storage, this was like 500 megabytes. I believe this one's supposed to be closer to like 8 gigabytes. So there's a lot more space. There's some more power, that kind of thing. That space is going to be taken up by a lot of Sega CD stuff, but hopefully there's a little left over type of thing. But yeah, so that's cool. Like arcade type versions with better scaling and whatnot of Space Harrier 1 and 2. And then also Spatter, a little 1984 maze game featuring a clown on a bouncing tricycle. So this guy right here. And then the Super Locomotive, which was an arcade game. And then Versus Puyo Puyo Son, a competitive two-player demake of the third game in the popular color matching series with new rules not found in the original. Then if we scroll down further, these are the games with brand new features. So Hellfire, one of the games on the list right here, which just seemed like it was going to be a standard release, but there's unspecified new features and options. They didn't really go into detail, but there's supposed to be new stuff, right? And then Outrun, the 4 in-game radio stations will now include new music tracks not featured in the original. And then Phantasy Star 2, the classic RPG, now features adjustable movement speed and a new easy mode. So some quality of life improvements here. And then Rainbow Islands Extra, the extra mode with new enemies, comes to the North American version for the first time. Then Truxton comes with a new option to play background music at its original arcade speed. So very interesting. You know, the full list we've looked at, we've talked about. We have it right here. And then I kind of have the first list right here to compare and contrast a little bit. You know, hey, we got like 60 games this time. I really liked a lot of the games on the first Genesis Mini. Now, the second one that's coming out, there's a lot of cool stuff here too. And, you know, now we have that addition of Sega CD games. No 32X, unfortunately. There is a good handful, and a lot of people brought that up. Like, why can't we have 32X? There's some solid games on there. Like, the library's not huge. There's, like, what, 30-something games? But there's a good handful of solid games on the 32X. That would have been amazing to be here, but unfortunately, they are not. You know, we're getting stuff like Echo the Dolphin Sega CD. We got Echo the Dolphin on the Genesis the first time, but on the first machine, man, we had some solid stuff. Castlevania Bloodlines, Castle of Illusion. What else? I mean, there's so much stuff here. You know, you had the first two Sonic games, Contra Hardcore, Ghouls and Ghosts, Mega Man The Wily Wars. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. You had what is this, Monster World 4? Yes, awesome. So there was cool stuff here. There's also cool stuff on the new one. I had some criticisms concerning, like, hey, you know, these omissions that we got. We're missing Lunar, Silver Star, and Eternal Blue, Popful Mail. Those are on the Japanese version. And I started hearing it from a lot of people, messages too, just sent directly to me, like, hey, the guy who actually has the rights to those, Victor Ireland, he's not dealing with it. These Game Arts games, the English translation was owned by Working Designs. Like, they did all that. They did the, you know, translations, localization, more like it's translation with localizations. And I've seen Victor Island. He's gotten a lot of heat in the past. I don't personally know him. Haven't really seen any clear examples of a lot of things. But people say he's a little spiteful. He's a little crazy at times. But hey, you know what, man? You run the company. I get it. And from what I heard, his reasoning, like, hey, the Lunar games with his translations and localizations, any of those, you know, Working Designs games that were Game Arts games, they're not on the U.S. version because Sega just didn't want to pay. Like, they just want to do like this flat rate, like get as many games as possible on here, as cheap as possible. They know the system is going to sell out, so they're not putting as much effort into trying to pay money to get games. That's what I've been hearing. And it's like, it's kind of unfortunate if that's the case. Like, we're missing out on a few things that would have been really cool to have. And I understand, man, no matter the game list, those games could have been on there and taken the place of something else on here. There's going to be people who didn't like those Working Designs games and would have rather had the others. It's all subjective, man. There's no reason to get all up in arms and fighting each other over this crap and getting nasty. But some people do, and to me, it's just kind of strange. It's video games. Like, it's just entertainment. Like, we can share our opinions, our displeasure, our excitements, you know, disappointments, whatever. That's fine. But some people are getting a little crazy. And hey, you know, I guess it is what it is. But yeah, Sega just didn't, you know, they're not really paying what this guy wanted. So do you blame Sega? Do you blame Victor Ireland? I mean, typically, I don't know what he would have expected. Like, what was his number, right? We don't know those details. And from what it sounds like, it was just Sega being cheap. So, yeah, do we put the ownership on that on Sega? Probably, you know. There's a lot of Sega-owned stuff on here, and that's fine. A lot of cool stuff. I knocked Night Trap and Sewer Shark, and I got a couple comments and one message, actually, like saying, like, pretty much like, hey, you know, Night Trap is iconic, man. It's a game that, you know, the congressional hearings with, you know, the ESRB stuff and, you know, hey, down with video games. This is horrible. It was a huge thing back in the day. I know that, but it's still a shit game in my opinion. It's available in a lot of different places, and I just felt like it's a novelty game, and I still stick by it. I'm not going to change my thoughts just because people say, hey, this is a historic game. You can argue every game on here is historic. You know, just because Night Trap was controversial doesn't mean it's a good game. That's my opinion. Yeah, we don't all have to have the same opinions, right? But those FMV games, really didn't care about, and then people wanting Snatcher, that just didn't happen. It just really seems like, hey, this time around, you see some of the licenses that are involved. Interplay, Data East, Renovation, right? There's a lot of common companies here that we're getting a bunch of games from that have been licensed over and over and over again. So that thought of Sega just being cheap to fill out the game list, it makes sense to me. They went with the people who'll just take licensing deals like, hell yeah, like I don't got to do nothing. Here's the ROM file. Go, give me money, right? Like no royalties. That's what the thing was. Like, hey, there's not going to be royalties. It's a flat fee for your game to be on here. And Sega just knowing, oh, we're going to sell all this out, so we don't really want to do anything with royalties and whatnot. And it's like 1/10 of the production run over the first one type of thing. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm a little disappointed, but I still think there's a lot of cool stuff here. Streets of Rage 3, but no Sonic 3, right? Like, what Sonic games do we get? We got Sonic CD, which is really sweet, but the first one we got Sonic Spinball, Sonic 1 and 2. And that was kind of, I don't really care for Sonic Spinball too much, but the first two Sonic games, that's awesome. It would have been great to get Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles on here, but that didn't happen. So no matter what the list was filled out with, regardless of how this actually went down, there's going to be disappointment, there's going to be excitement one way or another. And the other thing I wanted to mention is a lot of people brought up like, hey, it doesn't matter about the game list because I'm just going to hack it and add everything I want to it. And what I have to say to that is not everybody's interested in hacking. You personally, maybe like, I don't care about the game list. I just want to hack it. And to me, that's kind of like, why buy a device just for the potential of hacking, right? Like there's so many options out there and this is not cheap, right? But to each their own, whatever you want to do. My thing is when I buy a product like this, I base my decisions of buying it on the game list. Like, do I think it's worth it? And at this moment, to me, I do think it's worth it. I'm just a little disappointed in the omissions, right? I don't look at it as, is it worth it for the potential of hacking? Because I could hack so many other things. I could run ROMs on so many other things. So to me, the stock game list has to be solid. It has to sell me on it. The potential of hacking that everybody, I keep saying, oh, I'm just going to put hack cheat. There's no guarantee that that's going to work right out the box. You know what I mean? There's no guarantee that hack's actually going to be implemented to work on this device. Will it? Most likely, I would imagine, but nothing is guaranteed. Project Lunar, we don't have updates with a lot of things out there. It could turn into a TurboGrafx 16 Mini situation where there is never a hack. So I go into these things like anything can be hacked and could be hacked, but I've learned just because it can happen doesn't mean it always will happen. The people who are like knowledgeable in doing these kind of things, they have to have the time, they have to have the drive, they have to want to do it. They do these things essentially for the community. And if you yourself, like me, I can't personally build the hack. I'm not going to like put pressure on people like, why isn't there a hack? Why isn't there a hack? But I'm just saying like, hey, there either could be or there couldn't be. Most likely there will be, but there is no guarantee. So I don't like making my purchase based on that. If I didn't like a lot of these games and like, I wouldn't buy it for the potential of hacking. I wouldn't buy it to make the game list good. That wouldn't make sense to me. I have other devices to do that, but I do like the game list. I just think certain things are a little meh. But same thing, like the first one, there are certain games I don't really care for. That's just the way it goes. 100% of the games aren't going to please 100% of the people. That's just the way it is. So I hope, a little more information here, little thoughts, really curious to hear what you guys got to say. I'm looking forward to this thing. I'm hoping there's a hack, the potential with it being more powerful, the potential of more space, but we don't 100% know. I've heard 8 gigs versus the original's 500 megabytes. This time we have a lot of Sega CD stuff, so there is no 100%. Like the Japanese version does have more. Do I have the Japanese? Yeah, the Japanese version does have more CD titles on it, and I'm sure the hardware between the two are going to be the same. So if that's the case, maybe the US version is going to have a little extra space to play with versus the Japanese one. It's possible, but we'll just have to wait and see when this thing comes out. People actually have it in their hands and find out if it can be hacked, and if so, how easily or how soon does that come out. I'm hoping for it, but hey, Yeah, it is what it is. Thanks for watching. Bye.